Hello everybody, this is me Raptor, and today I just wanted to show you guys my OBS settings and how you can actually record with OBS. It's a free recording software obviously, and my brother for some reason thinks it sucks, but I think it's a pretty good software, especially since it's free, but it's a little bit buggy. So what you want to do is if you want good quality, you got to do X264, nothing else. QuickSync, you don't need, and Nvenc, it just really sucks. The only time you'd want to use Nvenc is if you have like a bitrate of 100,000. But at that point, it's just like, what's the point of that? You're just wasting your hard drive space. It's not really going to give you that much of a difference in quality, but it is going to be better if you do 100,000 than 50,000. But it's X264 is a lot better. So yeah, don't have CBR on. It makes it look bad for some reason. But you want to always do 10. Now for me, for the max bitrate, I have it at 1,000, but I think you can go like up to 2 or 3,000, but I'm not too sure. Now for the custom buffer size, I check that and I do zero. Now the reason why I do zero is because what this allows it to do is it allows it to not allows your videos to not be compressed and allow it to use as much bitrate for the quality needed. Now for the codec, I used AAC because I heard that MP3 was bad, and this just works. And 48, the reason why I have that is because it sounds better. Now for this, it doesn't really matter, but you don't want to do higher than 192 and no lower than 128. Because after 192, there's not really any difference, and I heard that it causes issues. But any lower than 128 is just bad. But there's not much of a difference between 128 and 192. It's really all just preference. Obviously, you'd want this to be like stereo or 7.1 surround sound or something. Now for this is where you'd want to record your video files, and I guess this is for like backup video files, but I don't really use it. But this is where you want to do wherever your video files are, wherever you want to record, I mean. But you'd have to change this from live stream to file output only. That's how you do local recordings to YouTube. But this is for live streaming, obviously. Now for this, yes, you want to use your video adapter, obviously, whichever one is your best, which most people just have one graphics card. But you want to leave this alone. Well, for custom, it depends. If you want to record in 720p, you'd want to do this to 1280 by 720. Never do 1920 and downscale, because downscaling makes it look really bad. I'm just going to say that. Just leave it to none. So if you're going to record in 720p, like go to your monitor settings or like control panel settings or something and make your desktop resolution to your lower resolution, and then have this always be none, and then like once you go into your monitor settings or your control panel settings and you change your monitor's resolution to a lower setting, have that resolution be the same for this for the custom if you want to record in that. Like if okay, so if you wanted to record in 720p for example, have your monitor be set to 1280 by 720 even if it's a 1080p monitor, and then once you do that, then you go into here and do 1280 by 720, and this you can set it to whatever frame rate you want. Doesn't really matter. It's like you could choose 30, 60, 120. It doesn't really matter at all. Now for this, obviously you'd want to choose your microphone, but default is if now I wouldn't mess with this too much, but if you want to record like your games and stuff audio, like in game, everything like Skype and your games you want it to default. And then whichever one you want to use as a mic, you set it to your mic. But I don't really like the Blue Snowball because it's too echoey, so I don't use that. I use the HyperX Cloud since I think it's good enough. Now for this is if you want to make your mic louder, and this is if you want to make your game audio louder. And then for this is like what you want to have for your recording keys and stuff and other stuff. But for me, I have page up for whenever I want to start the recording. Now for this, it doesn't really matter, but don't ever set this to high. Set it either to normal or above normal, and if you don't know what you're doing, set it to normal. But this, you definitely want to use multi-threaded optimizations. This you want to leave alone. But if you do want to mess with it, don't go lower than 400. and don't go higher than 700, obviously. But I would just say don't mess with it. Just leave it at 700. Now this, you don't really need to worry about, but don't ever have that on. This you don't need to mess with. Now, if you're recording an X264, you want to do ultra fast. Now, the reason why I was getting choppy footage before was because I either had this on or I had this on. I think it was very fast I had it on, but that makes, for some reason, that makes your footage really choppy, and it doesn't really make a quality difference if you do X264. You want to leave it at ultra fast. That's how you get rid of like most, if not all, the choppiness. Now, set this to high if you want good quality, but if your computer can't handle it, I would do main. Now for this, leave it alone. Either do two, or if you do want to mess with it, set to four. But you either want to do two or four, nothing else. But I'll just leave it at two. Now for this, you want to do CFR, that stands for constant frame rate, I think, something like that. But I don't really remember what it stands for, but I think it's constant frame rate. But like what this does is like you wanted to obviously have this checked and that checked, but the lower you lower it the lower it is the bigger your files are and the better your quality is. But for this, I wouldn't go any lower than 10 or any higher than 20, because anything higher than 20 is going to start to look bad, but 20 still looks pretty good, but it's going to be a smaller file size. And anything lower than 10, yeah, it's going to look perfect, but it's going to cause compatibility issues and lag. So I just set mine to 15 just because I would get a good balance, and it still looks really good even at 15. This I wouldn't mess with, but this I would definitely have that on just in case you want to record at a higher frame rate. I mean, there's not really a reason why you can't have that on. This I would not mess with, but have this latency tuning factor. Have this always set to 20. Quick sync encoder, you don't need to mess with. Browser, you don't need to mess with. Microphone noise gate, I'm not really sure what to do, but I wouldn't mess with it. But I would have this be 25, 200, and 150 if it's not already. But this stuff I would not mess with. And that's all you really need to know. Oh yeah, actually I'm gonna need to teach you guys how to actually record the games. So what you need to do is you need to add scene. I'll just say whatever game you want it to be. I'll just do game one. Then what you do is you add a source. Now if you want to record just the game, you do this, and you do um uh hang on a sec. Well, okay, so if you have your game running, you do obviously you choose the game that you want to record. It should be like Rocket League.exe if you want to record Rocket League, but you should already have the game open before you start recording. That's the way like OBS works. So once you get into your game, then all you need to do is you go to your game capture and you find Rocket League.exe if you want to record Rocket League, and then you just press OK. And this doesn't matter. Now this, I'm not really sure what to do, but I want to mess with it and just click OK, but I'm not going to do it because I don't need to do it. Now, to see if this works, like if you're like unsure if it's going to work or not, you do preview stream. Now it's going to show up as a black bar or whatever, or like, I mean, a black square. So what you're going to need to do is you need to alt tab into your game once you're previewing stream, and then after like 2 seconds, alt tab again, and it should show your game. That's how you know your recording's working. And then obviously this is to start recording unless you have your hotkey. Anyways, that's all I need to show you guys. See you all next time.